Get to know all your favorite VRChat DJs all in one place. This is VRCDJLIVE.
Well, welcome back, everybody, to VRCDJLIVE. Of course, my name is Rob Roman, and great to have you back here. This is the only program that I know of where we actually get to sit down, talk to some of your favorite DJs, your favorite clubs, all of the things that are happening live in VR. And I'm even more thrilled to have even more DJs that not only have been just doing awesome things all over VRChat, but also things in the IRL spectrum that not a lot of us continue to hear too much about. But this is going to be the place that you see it for the future. And of course, we're really glad to have you live on Twitch. And I guess we're going to just kind of get into it with our next guest here. Joining us today, we got someone who is just quickly making moves all in the VR DJ space, performing in a number of clubs. He's been making and releasing tons of music via SoundCloud, and I even learned that you can listen to it up on Spotify, so you are technically a Spotify DJ.
What can I do?
Honestly, and actually has a fun infatuation that I've been learning about longboarding. Please welcome to the VRC DJ Live, Mayor of Texas.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Rob. It's awesome to be here. I appreciate it.
It's great to actually be able to sit down with you, because most of all of my time when I'm going up and down the timeline, I just see Mayor of Texas, whether it's either later on in the day or even later on in the early in the evening, and it's like I can't get you, man. Like, you're always busy, you're always doing something.
The 3 a.m. tweets go kind of hard, I gotta say.
One of these days, like, I'm gonna have to stay awake at 3 a.m., but like, you're gonna be lit, and I'm gonna be sitting there like, oh my gosh, I'm so tired about this. But actually, before we get started, all right, now I'm sure a ton of people have wanted to ask this question for a bajillion years.
Oh no,
Mayor of Texas. We're not talking. Obviously, we're not talking governor. You know, you want to be a governor of Texas, but what does it take to be the mayor of Texas?
Oh, well, you know, it's just like any other political role. You're democratically elected. There's a whole election and everything like that. People might not know about the election, but it does happen still.
So do you think people in Texas would actually want to vote for you as mayor of Texas on the political ballot this coming season? It's just a couple days.
Absolutely. Why not?
It's just a couple days away.
Yeah, that's right. Coming up soon. You know, vote for me this month or next month, I guess, November 8th. It's on the ballot. You got to look for the mayor. There's only one candidate. So, I mean, you don't really have much of a choice, but, you know.
I'm kind of afraid to ask, like, what you're gonna do if you ever become the mayor of Texas. Like, what would your policies be?
Well, so the mayor has a very important job, and it's VR relations for the state of Texas, and that's you know, very, very, you know, pressing issue these days.
I guess I'm hearing from chat that we're having some double mayoral audio.
Me?
And see, listen, it's a live show. We're working on it. And you know what? We're not double anymore. Thank goodness. I know this. Listen, it's still this episode 2. We're still trying to figure out VRC DJ Live, and it is live. So thank you guys for your comments. And of course, for those people that are watching on Twitch, feel free to drop your comments, I don't want to say your questions, and your comments and questions, no concerns. If you have concerns, take it up with our producers. The producers will help us out. They will be in the back there screaming at me, being like, "Rob, we got double audio. What are you doing?" But that's kind of a fun title, Mayor of Texas. Talk a little bit about your process of trying to. I mean, obviously, I would assume that you do live in Texas.
Of course, I live in Houston.
So
Texas.
then, how did that become to be? Because I mean, I feel like most DJ names, they have some sort of a story. Mayor of Texas.
Oh yeah, so mine is kind of silly. So when I was in college, I had a friend of mine who had the handle Mayor of Galveston. Okay, Mayor of Houston. So he has this handle Mayor of Houston, and the city of Houston kept trying to like buy it from him for like a couple $1,000s, and he's like, "Nah, I'm gonna keep it." And so we went to Galveston one day, and I was like, you know, I want to be the mayor of something too. I want to do Mayor of Galveston, and so I did Mayor of Galveston, and I was Mayor of Galveston on Instagram for a while, and he was Mayor of Houston, and we would go back and forth and do, you know, whatever. And then whenever I started playing VRChat, I was like, man, I don't want to use my normal usernames that I usually use for like video games and stuff, because it's kind of lame. You know, some of them had numbers and stuff in them. No offense to anyone who has numbers in their username, but I was like, I want to be the mayor of Galveston, like Instagram, but I don't think anyone's gonna know what Galveston is. So I was like, well, people know what Texas is, so let me just make it mayor of Texas, and that's kind of how it all started.
So do you ever listen? For starters, I've never been to Texas. I've been wanting to. Well, I can't say I've never been to Texas. I actually had a really long layover in Houston, and I was very, very angry. And I remember talking to a woman at Dunkin' Donuts at the Houston airport. IAH, yeah. And she was like, "Oh, this is your first time in Texas," and I'm like, "Yeah, I have a 7-hour layover. Like, I would assume that I would want it to be a little bit better than what I wanted it to be." And she goes, "Well, I'm sorry, this kind of ruins it for you." But so I think like having someone who's from Texas and how everybody else knows that everything's bigger in Texas and Texas kind of has their own thing going on here. Have you ever considered being the mayor of Texas, having some sort of a Texas themed DJ something other than whatever you currently have?
So what do you mean? Like,
well, kind of just like, I don't know. I mean, if let's just say you have someone from Europe and they're like, "Oh, you're from Texas, yeehaw. You must wear your cowboy hat and your boots with the spurs, with the spurs." But like you have to have some sort of honky tonk badonkadonk thing going here. But obviously that's not what you provide.
Well, I've actually done some Western swing sets before, believe it or not. And I don't, like you said, I don't do a ton of country music and like, I guess Texas, whatever, per se. But who's to say techno can't be from Texas, right?
Well, I guess the question begs, have you done some sort of a Texas theme something?
Not yet.
Not yet, but
I do want to do something like that, you know. And if you know the DJ Little Texas, he kind of does that a little bit too with his visuals and things like that. Is that
the guy that forgive me, is that the guy that's like the new DJ that's like he wears a cowboy hat, he's totally ripped, and then he kind of just stands naked on top of his thing?
He's actually been around for like 10 years.
Shut
though.
up.
You see, he's just right now he's getting a lot of notoriety because of all the festivals and stuff he's been playing. Also, you know, hardcore and up-tempo, they're coming up in the scene right now. A lot of people are liking it more and more these days, where, you know, you go back 5 years ago and people's like, what is this noise? I don't even know what I'm listening to. It still sounds the same. It's just people are a little more open to it now.
I think it'll be a very interesting thing to bring up a little bit later on down the road, because I'm sure that question's bound to spring up at some point in time during this program. Yeah. But usual, like we normally do when we start these programs, is obviously we ask, what came first, the chicken or the egg? So a lot of the people that don't really know, I mean, they know your music and they know how you perform, but we all kind of want to know what got you into VR to begin with. Was it the DJing? Did the DJing come first? Or did the VR kind of come first?
Well, so it's interesting you ask, because I've actually been DJing since about 2013. So well before VR was a thing. All through college, you know, I was involved at a radio station there, and we had a DJ program. I actually learned how to DJ before I got there. But when I got there, I kind of like hit the ground running a little more in like 2016. So we would do like campus shows, we would do pop-ups, we would do frat parties, we'd do boiler rooms, whatever. And we had like, 4 or 5 different DJs, and we would all go out and do these shows. I'd bring some lights and they'd have the PA, we'd do a thing, pack it up, go home. But then after I got out of college, it kind of died down. So like in 2018 to like 22, I didn't really do any kind of DJing until I got into VR. And, I got into VR like at a time where I wasn't at the highest point in my life. I think everyone comes into VR a little bit broken, if that makes sense. I've heard that story quite a bit.
Like a longing for something else, or wanting to do another hobby or something.
Yeah, exactly. And for me, I was actually looking for a new community to hang out with, because all the ones I was in person kind of dissolved. So I was like, I got nothing going on. I want to meet some new people and all this stuff. So I was in VR for 1 week on desktop, and then I had an index the next week.
Oh my gosh.
And then at the end of the month, I had full body tracking.
So then how did you learn about VRChat? It wasn't just like something that sprung up on Steam, I don't think, right?
No. So, okay, yeah, back in 2018, I had a friend who was following a lot of the trends and things. And as you know, the VR trend in 2018 was Uganda Knuckles. So
That's the reason why I'm here.
he brought me in like on desktop, just be like, look, it's the funny Knuckles memes. And we were just running around in like a black cat or something. I don't even remember what the world was. And I was there for like 30 minutes or so, maybe a couple hours. And then it just kind of stayed in my Steam library since. And then in 22, I was kind of like at the beginning of 22, at the end of 21, I was kind of like scrolling through to see like find a game to play or whatever. And I saw VRChat, and I was reading on the community notes page on Steam, and I was like, huh, this looks kind of interesting. Maybe I do want to get into this. And then like in March of 22 is when I first got into VR. And then from there, it just, I latched onto a group of friends that I met in the pug, and we did a whole bunch that whole summer. I think I was on like 8 to 10 hours a day every day that summer or something like that. Like I suffered at work a little bit because of it.
Oh, man.
And I didn't like my job that much at the time anyway, so I wasn't too pressed about it. But it's the story. You go to work, go home, get on VR, go to sleep, wake up, go to work, go home, get on VR, all throughout the summer of 22. And then at the end of that summer, is when I started DJing in VR, because I had a friend of mine at the time who was going every Saturday night to these different clubs and things, and I didn't know much about the club scene at the time. My whole VR experience was the Great Pug, Black Cat, and Drinking Night, as you know, and a couple other others worlds and things. And so what happened was I told him like, oh yeah, I used to DJ, back in college or whatever. He's like, oh yeah, you should set it up, blah, blah, blah. And so I figured out how to stream, how to set it up, all this stuff. And we went and opened up a private Orion, and I played like a Future Funk set, because he was really into Future Funk, and he was like, oh my God, bro, that was the best set I ever heard. Holy crap, I got to get you to go DJ, blah, blah, blah. I was like, I didn't even know. That was the first time I mixed Future Funk too. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess I can do this in VR. This is kind of cool. And so he went and talked with Spiral, which was the club that I played at first. And I got it put on their Future Funk lineup, which was Kitsune Mixes was there, who's now a really good friend of mine. Like, we've met up at IRL multiple times. We've done so many back-to-backs and things like that. Narshwal was the one putting on the show, who runs like a VR record label now and things like that. And then there was a couple others. Mir No Tilde was there. And then a couple other people that I just am really good friends with now. They were all at my first show, and some of them on the lineup, which is really cool,
You never really expect that either, like you go in there and you just kind of, you're just having a good time, and you really don't know who you're going to be performing with. And I think that's the miracle of VRChat currently, that like we kind of take a little bit of advantage of just the fact that we don't know who anybody could potentially be. And then they're going to come in and they're just going to be like, here's a record deal, here's a thing, here's some work. And then hopefully somewhere down the road, your friends get famous, and then hopefully then you'll get VIP tickets to something.
Yeah, for real. And so, funny thing, like all that kind of came together there, and then played a bunch of shows after that, and then I get asked, hey, do you want to come up and play in Chicago for Data? And I was like, yeah, absolutely, I'll do that. And then another DJ friend of mine, 780 Racer, who when he was just starting to get out into the scene, he asked me for help actually at a Black Cat, because I joined off another friend randomly, and they just happened to be there. And I helped him get, his stuff set up and all the clubs and things like that. And then he asked me to play in Minneapolis for this convention called 2DCon. And I was like, oh, that's great, And it just kind of all evolved from that.
And now you're a big popular DJ superstar in VRChat.
Apparently that's what's happened.
I feel like a lot of people want to come see your sets, though. I mean, you put on some really good performances. You DJ, and you got a big old following. You got people in chat right now. I'm asking a bunch of questions and wanting to be a part of your program. So that's really neat.
Nova Star Phantom and Churchguard, both really good friends of mine.
So this, I mean, obviously this is listen, this is your time to ask the questions, the weird questions that you keep forgetting about. I'm not saying they got to make a list of things, but like,
they both know quite a lot about me. So if they can find some really pointed questions, I'm sure.
I know one of them is about Shrimp One, which I don't know, at some point in time I'm sure we'll get into, but so
Shrimp 2's coming up.
Oh,
Shrimp
look
2's
at that.
coming up. Mm-hmm.
Get your seafood on. So now one of the things about VRC DJ Live that I'm really trying to piece together, because one of the other missions behind this program is to kind of reconnect all of what happened in 2022, because it still blows my mind because of someone who, like myself, came in late 2017 and we had various iterations of either streaming content or meme content. Obviously the Knuckles played a big role, as well as gatekeeping, and then all of a sudden, once COVID happened, there was just this big explosion of DJs and stuff. Talk to me a little bit about the whole process, because as you said, you started DJing in 2022 at an Orion. How did that process continue to spiral into finding clubs and finding other DJs? Because I would assume more people came up to you saying, "Hey, you seem cool. I DJ as well. Let's start a group, or let's go to this club." So kind of tell me a little bit about that process of how that happened.
Sure. So my first, I guess, official set was at Spiral, which is a prominent now UKG club, and they do a lot of UK music and things like that. But at the time, they were doing all sorts of genres and different things, trying to find an identity for themselves. And after I played my first set, and if you're a DJ, you know when you finish your set, everyone comes up to you and says, "Oh my God, good set," blah, blah, blah. I had someone come up to me and say, "Hey, I've got a birthday party coming up. Do you think you can play at my birthday party?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Okay, sure. Yeah, I can do that." That would have been my second set, and I still was like, I don't know anybody or any connections and things like that. And so what I would do is, when I had time, I would go with a couple of friends of mine to just different clubs and things. Or if someone told me, "Hey, there's this venue, you should go check it out," I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna go check it out," And this was also at the time when Refuge was coming up, and when PSHQ was getting off the ground, and I think Closet had just started their things too. And so I would go to all these venues, and I'm like, "Man, I want to play there. I want to play there. I want to play there." And then you just start going more and more often. You start talking to people, and then eventually, what'll happen is, you talk about, "Hey, I'm a DJ who's blah 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 blah." You're active in the community, and then they come back to you and say, "Hey, we got an open decks night. You want to play?" And it's like, "Yeah, I'll play." And that's kind of how I got like my third and fourth and fifth. And the thing is, when you get those platforms to play, and you bring something unique and different to the table, they tend to want to book you again and again because you get people excited. And so I try. It doesn't matter like how many people are at the set. It could be like 5, it could be 80, it could be Shelter. I'm always put like my best foot forward and really, really try and just pretend like I'm DJing for an entire festival, And that's kind of what I visualize whenever I am DJing in VR. Doesn't matter how many people there.
So,
and that's kind of
no, continue. We're gonna
and that's kind of and that's just kind of how I get these people to look in my direction and say, "Hey, I want you to DJ for us."
So now that you kind of had like a couple of years of DJing, getting your feet wet, doing some much larger projects in virtual reality, where do you see your stance on exposure compared to professionalism, trying to get paid, compared to even the influx of new hobby DJs that are coming in here? And as it was stated in the chat recently, it's like, oh, trying to hire Mayor back then was so easy, but like nowadays, obviously, people are coming to see your shows and you want to try to pack the instance, but exposure is always a very popular thing until the point where you're just like, maybe the birthday parties just aren't working out the way you've been wanting them to.
Absolutely. No, I completely get it. What I've kind of decided, and this is personally for me, is I will never take $1 to play a VR set ever. So it keeps it fun for me. It keeps it as a hobby. It keeps it low stakes, and it keeps the expectations in line too. Like, hey, this is a free thing. I'm gonna do this for no cost, and just give me the freedom to do what I want to do, and it'll be a good time kind of thing. Of course, in real life, it doesn't always work that way, and they have certain vibes and things that they're trying to curate. And there's places in VR too that they're trying to curate certain vibes and things, which is nothing wrong with that. But in real life, it's a whole lot more strict. Like, especially if you're getting paid, because they expect you to fall in line with them, way more than they fall in line with you, kind of thing. Unless you got like 20,000 followers or something.
Do you think at some point in time that might change based on either popularity, or you're just going to try to keep this just a regular, I'm having fun? Because I feel like even like it for us, the DJ, the birthday parties, they can be hit or miss depending on who's going to be there. And obviously people can't, in virtual reality, it's hard for people to understand actually what does it take when you do DJ and you want to make it into a career, but at the same time, I wouldn't say throw a bone, but exposure does help sometimes.
Absolutely.
When it comes to being in here. But do you think at any given time, I mean, I'm not saying that you're going to find an answer in 2 years in VR chat, especially with the in-game currency and whatever, but do you think that it might, well, let me just ask you this. Do you think it'll ever become as popular as just that most people in here might think that because they are better than most or they have good skills, that the only reason why they won't perform is because there's no monetary value?
I think some DJs already would kind of do that, like, and maybe they are very skilled, and it's right for them to decide if they want to be paid or not for what they do, especially if they only do VR. Maybe VR is a source of income for them. I don't blame them for wanting to get paid or anything for that. That's totally fine. But for me personally, like I said, it's always like, if I ever do say I blow up to be this huge DJ or whatever in real life, and I'm touring or whatever, even then I would still do all VR shows free myself. Like, I don't want to take money, and it's because it's just such a good scene, and that's what makes it a good scene here. Is there is no monetary incentive right now. You can play just about anything and everything. There's a huge spread of just variety, which I love. You hear music you would never hear in the real world. So that's what I really like about it.
The facts that that's true facts right there. I was going to say the fact that that you could go to listen to almost anything in here, despite the obvious, drum and bass is the most popular or whatever. Which, I mean, it still kind of is. It's very fun, but you kind of have to be in the mood for it. I mean, funny enough, I did see one guy on Twitch, not to go off the handle here, but I did see one guy on Twitch who was DJing in VR, who was DJing lo-fi music, and I was like, how do you do that? How do I get into that? That sounds fun. Why am I not there? But again, this is the type of place, and we got to kind of learn how all of this kind of fits together. Dying question. This is a very difficult question. What are your thoughts on all of the new up-and-coming DJs coming into VR, wanting to do it as hobbies? Do you think that they're just trying to fight so much more for exposure? I know trying to even find actual slots to play, people are right there at their computers to just take them, people that have been in the game for a little while. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, first off, I'm pretty blessed that I don't have to fight for slots, and I'm really happy about that every day. People tend to DM me on Discord and say, "Hey, do you want to play?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, I'll play," or "Oh, I can't play, I got work," or whatever. So I know I'm kind of in that kind of a privileged position right now where I don't have to fight for these slots. But I love having all these new DJs and things like that come into the scene because, it's all these different new sounds and such. And obviously, a lot of them are fighting for exposure, like you said, to try and get known a little more, to get, seen. And but it's really cool to see it because they all bring something different to the table, always bring something new. And then when I go and hear some of these DJs I've never heard before, I'm like, oh, man, that's really cool. And it makes me almost competitive in a way to, I'm like, okay, I got to up my game. I got to get better at this, I got to try these genres out. I got to go crate digging again. right? And so that's what I really like about it.
So do you find yourself kind of approaching a lot of these new people? Do you go and follow them on social media, or what is your process? But only because, like, again, I don't want to bring up old VRChat gatekeeping, but like, I think we're so blessed as DJs in virtual reality that we genuinely don't have to deal with it right now. But I would assume at some point in time, with just this influx of brand new, again, every weekend on the timeline, it's just some brand new names I have never even thought of or known about. So what is your process, especially for those people that are interested to even try to even approach you? You know, you seem like a very popular DJ that does a lot in this community. How would they approach you? Do you just approach them? How does that work?
Well, I always tell people my DMs are open. You can DM me on Discord. It's not a problem, right? If I don't want to talk, I won't respond. But like DM me, it's okay. You're not offending me at all. I want to help you get into the scene if that's what you're trying to do, because I have I know a lot of different people. I have a lot of different connections, and I'm more than happy to, plug you if you've got a great set and things like that. I'm not just going to plug anyone, obviously, but like, if I went and I heard your set and I went up to you and I said, hey man, great set, that sounded awesome, you need to DM me on Discord or something like that, or whatever it is, I am more than happy to help you reach out to these other venues and get you started at least, or get you a foothold so you can, run on your own kind of thing.
Do you just kind of approach other people that DJ that you like and you're just instantly kind of talking to them, or do you just kind of read the vibe and just, try to be as cool as possible? Like, good set, bro, and then you just kind of leave.
I'm far from cool. I'm a very goofy person, and I don't hide it. So if I were hiding it and trying to be cool, it would be very awkward for me. It'd be very.
No, it'd be one of those scenarios of like, hey, that guy over there says that you're cool, and then you rush over there and just kind of go up against the wall.
Yeah, exactly. Let me get over there real quick. Let me just like post up. Yeah, check out my cool skateboard, bro. No,
you like music? I got a skateboard. I don't know what the difference is between those two, but besides understanding a lot of the genres and listening to pretty much anything, this is kind of a double-ended question. Obviously, your sets are a little bit harder than most. Do you have a particular genre that you find surprises you in here that you like listening to?
That I like listening to, that's very shocking and surprising.
Yeah, like if we were to find you sitting here listening to like oldies, like 50s, 60s genre, and some DJs just totally going ham on the oldies, and you're in the front row just kind of going like this. What would be the genre that we would find you at, either the most or the one we would find you that would be surprising to find you at?
That would be surprising to find me at. Well, like you said, obviously a lot of people know I play a lot of harder music and things like that. And you'd be surprised though, I don't even play at like the hardest spectrum on the spectrum. So you got like vaporwave over here, and then you got over here like up tempo and extra tone, speedcore, whatever, right? I probably fall in a little bit past half. So like you got your slower technos, and my techno's just slightly faster than the slower techno, which I like to play a lot. But a genre that I like that people would not expect, if there was more psych rock events and psych rock, like either like Yes, or oh god, what's his name, Rick Wakeman, things like Pond or King Gizzard, like that, those kinds of musics, I would be at those events every week if those existed in VR.
And now you're here first, so now that we could get a bunch of people to come in here, and you'll just expect Mayor Texas to be there. But I would hope so.
Absolutely.
What do you think about the DJ community that could surprise you despite the genres? Do you find anything about our DJ community that does surprise you over? Let's just say even over in the past 2 years.
So what's surprising me about this community versus like other communities?
Maybe even like when you first got in here to start DJing in 2022 compared to where we're at now, what do you find that's the most surprising, either an upgrade or downgrade, or even like, I dare I say, shifts of many older clubs?
So when I first started, one of my goals was to play at 7D, was because that was one of the first I guess venues I got, dragged into from the pug, because it was this one venue is like a huge spaceship. It had like a planet with like rings around it. Everything was audio reactive. I had no idea what audio link was at the time and things like that. I was using some default avatar found in a world. It was you know how it goes. And one of my goals was to play there. And so now 7D doesn't really do as much as they used to, and I have really been able to find anyone, to ask, hey, do you mind if I play? Or I don't even know what kind of events they do these days. Not trying to put them under the bus or anything like that, And I noticed like a lot of the clubs now, they have kind of gone to the box with lights kind of feel venue. You know what I'm talking about? It's like a dark box. You go into a room, you got 6 walls, you got DMX control lights and a shader on top of it, and that's the majority of clubs now. And there's a lot of places that don't do it that way, which is really cool to see. But a lot of newer clubs, they've kind of fallen into that, I guess, formula. Because, I mean, it works. It's what people expect. But when I was first starting, every club was different. Like, you would go to, like I said, all the 7D stuff was different. Lyoko had some crazy-looking stuff. They still have some really cool stuff at Lyoko. Obviously, Shelter, they always do a really good job, and it's really different. Yeah, it's a dark box with lights, but it's a different kind of dark box with lights. You got, like... who else did I go to back in the day? It's hard to remember now, even though it's only been 2 years ago. But I think nowadays, I guess, to get back to your question, the variety of club is a lot less than what it used to be as terms of like what the club is. And I think the coolest thing about VR is that we can make the club way crazier than anything that is conceivable in real life. And I think we should keep that kind of mentality behind it rather than model what is already done in real life. Because why would you go to a VR club when you can go to the exact same thing in real life?
I mean, obviously, besides the fact that you could stay at home and drink, and then once you're done and you feel a little tipsy, you just take your headset off and just kind of plop yourself in bed.
Well, yeah. But in terms of experience, if you want to get an experience out of it, let's have the VR experience plus the club. Why do one or the other?
We're talking with Mayor of Texas here on VRCDJLIVE. Of course, if you've got any questions, you can type it in the chat. And for those people that are a part of the show that you want to see a replay of the show, we got it up on YouTube. We're going to have it up. It's not live on YouTube yet, but we're making the progress to get over there. We do have a lot of our replays up on YouTube at VRCDJLIVE. And we're going to get get back into the whole, what kind of your expectations of a lot of these clubs in VR in a moment. We do have a question in chat. Speaking of crate digging, we were kind of discussing how you were watching other people. How do you build your music library? And where do you think most people that are starting to DJ can find a lot of the music that they want to start DJing with?
Okay, so what I tend to do is, say you find a song that you really like, right? And you go to that artist and say oh man, everything this artist makes sounds really cool. And it's like stuff I want to play. So what I do in that case is I will find them on SoundCloud, Bandcamp, Beatport, wherever they put their music, right? And I will go see who they're following or what labels they're a part of or what labels follow them, those kinds of things. Because usually, I'd say about 7 out of 10 times, they follow people who make music similar to them or in the same vein in a way. It might not be the same genre, but it's got the same kind of feel. And so what I'll do from there is I love free SoundCloud downloads. I don't care if I got to comment, if I got to share, if I got to follow them on Instagram, I'll do it. I don't care. I love free SoundCloud downloads. I'll do that first. If I can't find it on SoundCloud, and then what I'll do is I'll download their music free, and then I will go look at their likes and their followers and their follows, listen to their music, find stuff there that I like, and I end up having like 150 tabs after going through it, because it's like a tree. You start with 1, then you find 2, then you find 4, then you find 8 and 16. Sure. And all these people make the same kind of music. And then you end up downloading an entire scene of music and to So I had like 150 tabs, and I go through those tabs, and I download. I put them all in a folder. I label the folder something weird because I'm terrible at labeling things. If I named it like the date and genre, it wouldn't fit well with me. So, like one of the folders I recently put together is like this weird kind of techno crate, and it's kind of got like a clubby kind of bounce to it, but it's also techno, so it still's got that driving kicks. So I called it hard but bouncy techno mostly, and that's how I know it.
That's perfect.
And then, yeah, and that's how I go about crate digging. A lot of times, I've found SoundCloud and Bandcamp have the music that I like to listen to the most. I will find some stuff on Beatport. I just don't like using Beatport that much. It's a little clunky. But if they only put their stuff on Beatport, I'm going to support the artist, especially if they're smaller, and buy their music on Beatport. Because I don't like to rip music. Ripping music is a last resort for me if I really, really want to play it, you know, and I want to support the artist as much as I can.
What do you think of about, because I would assume you use SoundCloud a lot. I know for me, I just kind of post willy-nilly on there. I don't really have a dedicated schedule or anything like that. What do you think the turnaround is for finding unknown artists to the point where everyone's listening to that particular tune? Like, what kind of a ratio do you think in the VR space? Because I know a lot of the hardcore people, a lot of the drum and bass people, they do go through SoundCloud looking for those diamonds. But where do you think that the ratio turnaround is for something to really hit within our community?
It really depends on the venue you're playing, and that's where it's important to know where you're playing and what kind of music to play there. So, for example, if you play at HAF, you know, they do all hardcore and crazy up-tempo and stuff like that. So you find a track, and you know, the funny thing about hardcore and VR is there's a massive overlap between the artists that make the music and the players in VRChat. So you go to HAF and you're going to be standing next to 10 other producers who are actually kind of known in the hardcore scene. And I think the turnaround happens based on the venue. So hardcore, it's like a smaller community. You will find that everyone likes to play each other's music in the hardcore scene for sure. I'm not so certain on the drum and bass side of things. I don't play a ton of drum and bass, but for techno, there's a lot of techno that I guess the turnaround would be. I don't really know about techno that much for the turnaround, but definitely I know for sure hardcore. It's like, I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank here.
Well, let me try to aid you in this. So, like, I know in our community, we do have, there's a good chunk of people that listen to a lot of the harder music that don't genuinely know where to find it. They only know what they listen to and they like. And then occasionally you'll go talk to someone who's singing all the lyrics, and you're like, "Well, you really like that tune. It must be a really nice tune to do it. Why don't I keep looking it up?" Where do you find, like, what ratio of people in VRChat do you think actively go through it like that, as opposed to like for example, do you think it's more of like an 80-20, or do you think that a full 100% of people that go to these hardcore shows that's what they're exactly doing?
I think a lot of the people who go to the hardcore shows know the music really well. I've noticed there's a correlation with hardcore and rhythm games. So a lot of them play stuff like Beat Saber and things like that. So they hear this music all the time, constantly trying to beat these maps. And then they come into VR and they hear the song that they've been trying to beat being played by a DJ doubled with a different song or something like that. And then it's always a really cool thing because it's like, oh, I know that song. Oh my God. And then I'd say at least 60% of the people in the hardcore scene know the music really well.
I honestly keep forgetting about Beat Saber. The people are still actively playing it. The developers are still making stuff on there.
Oh yeah, I'm friends with a lot of Beat Saber people, and so I constantly hear about it. I'm friends with a couple map makers and things like that, and obviously, you know, it's just that overlap is so cool to see.
Now, I know we were kind of talking a little bit earlier about the cookie cutter style of venues that you may see in here, a box with lights And I would really love your opinion based on all the different clubs that you either have played in, have gone to, compared to like what your opinion is on a lot of, I don't even remember what it's actually called, but there's like some sort of like a fog filter, or maybe there's some sort of audio spatial thing going on in the worlds. What do you enjoy going to? And again, what has surprised you that you think could work in the future for a lot of those types of clubs?
I like I said earlier, like I really enjoy going to these worlds and clubs that are themed really nicely, that aren't just boxes with lights, because that's the easiest theme to do. And I think the person who does the best at creating an experience in VR, sorry about the tracking, the VR experience plus music is probably either Light Dimension or Kaleidosky, because so that's Rue and Les. Both of them do an amazing job at just curating events, curating lineups, and not just that, making it feel like you're at a different place, in a different place entirely, while also having such good music, you know? And those are the kind of venues I would look at to strive for, to make your venue, if you are a world builder, go along those lines, go crazy with it. Don't confine yourself to just the box and lights, you know?
What are your it's another hot take. I know it's kind of a very popular hot take, but what is your opinions on boiler rooms? I know they're starting to become a little bit more popular, and I think there are some worlds in here that really kind of showcase that. I think people enjoy it, but in a VR space, it's a little different compared to an IRL thing.
Yeah. I think boiler rooms are cool, and there's a way to theme it in a way that doesn't just feel like every other boiler room, you know? Yeah, you can do the 360 DJ thing and try and have people all the way around, which is cool. There's, like, for example, Refuge, they run an event, or they have a map called Your Mom's Basement, which is a boiler room style. And it starts in a house, and you go downstairs in the basement, and then in the basement there's, you know, decks and speakers and a screen. And it feels more immersive than if you were just, you know, in that black box boiler room that everyone thinks of.
Yeah, you're right. I was waiting for something, you know. It's funny because during these, I'm just kind of looking at each other like, all right, it's your turn, my turn, kind of a thing. And you know, I'm just waiting for something. I know you're drinking water and stuff, so I want to make sure that you're hydrating as well. But what do you tell me a little bit about what you think the future of DJing in VR could possibly be? I know it's kind of a little early to even talk about that, but consider to all of the people that we might have seen performing, again, the influx of the fact that Fridays and Saturdays, Friday starts at like maybe 2 p.m. in the afternoon, goes till like 6 o'clock in the morning, and there's just like 150 DJs. Do you believe that we're going to continue on with this process, that it's going to grow much larger than we even hoped for?
I think what is probably going to happen is when things become monetized in a way, because that's where everything is going right now. I don't see a way where VR won't be partially monetized, if not fully monetized, as far as raves and things go. When that happens and money starts getting involved, I think copyright's going to play a much bigger role in the way things are done here. So right now we're in the Wild West. We can do what we want, you know, whenever we want. Everyone's playing. Go to whatever world you want. But whenever copyright becomes an issue, and I think it's probably going to become an issue on the stream service provider side. And if they start getting hit with copyright claims from bigger and bigger companies, we're going to start getting restricted. So I think we're kind of in a golden era right now where we don't have that yet, but we also have the variety. But in the future, I don't think we're going to have nearly as much variety because of copyright.
Beyond the copyright talking points, because obviously those are continuously ongoing, especially with DMCA. And I know I really love to bring up the fact that DMCA has been around since 1997. So the fact that we're doing anything now compared to waiting till like 2027 or something is miraculous. But I think on the front of maybe like, again, the DJing and VR is starting to explode a lot more. But as DJs, and our community is really nice compared to some of the videos or even top streamers of VR chat on Twitch. We have to battle up against some more sexualized content. I don't want to say furry content is bad. I mean, it has its own genre and it has its own place. But it just kind of shows that it's either you can't be in VR chat unless you have a lewd avatar, or you have to become a furry. Do you think that at some point in time, DJing is going to take a step up to hopefully shine a more positive light on streaming that type of content? Because it just seems like streaming content in VR chat hasn't been as a golden age, as you've said, since several years ago. So I'm a little kind of hesitant to see what 2025 could potentially bring for the DJs.
Yeah, I know DJing is a little bit different on Twitch right now, and because with their new DJ rules and things like that, I haven't really ran into any issues with DJing on Twitch whenever I restream my sets there. And as far as, I guess, content, do you think we're going to see DJs being top content creators for VRChat?
I think ultimately, like, I guess the real big question is that, like, I've talked to a lot of people that either streamed VR back in the day compared to even watching VR content on Twitch nowadays. And it's a big resounding, I don't do it anymore because of either the over sexualized content that they do see. A lot of their thumbnails are saying, click here to see the whatever the heck you guys are going on with. But it just seems like the golden era of memes and driving content with friends in semi-public instances are kind of distant. So I'm looking to see, in your opinion, where DJing would take us if we were to continue on with what we're doing right now when it comes to streaming this type of content on the Twitch category.
I think I guess if you want to call it a problem, or if you see it as a problem, the overarching, I guess, of lewd content for VR, which is generally pushed to the top of the Twitch page. That's kind of a problem with Twitch in general right now, just the way the terms of service and whatnot is. That content gets elevated to the top, you know? A lot of the top streamers are all thirst trap content. But I think DJing could become, like, can there be a new golden era of streaming for VR? I think it's possible. It's just really gonna have to depend on who the audience is in Twitch, what is allowed on the Twitch platform as considered content, what is legal, what's not legal. And right now, thirst traps are the thing on Twitch. I don't think that's like news to anyone. You just go to the front page of Twitch and you'll see
something.
At least, you'll see something. And as long as that is, I guess, as pushed on the Twitch platform, whether by the algorithm or by people or whoever, that's what it's going to be, because VRChat gives so much access to that.
I know one of the other really infamous topics as far as our type of content and how we stream it is kind of the lewd avatars that come to the club, and even like very poor avatars overall. And it's hard to kind of secure that. It's kind of hard to say, hey, come in with a medium-based avatar or we're going to kick you, because you can't really police that without them being like, you're not my dad, you're not my mom. It's like, I'll come in and do what I want, whatever I want. But even just bringing, it's hard to bring light to it, because it's like, if you're of age to go to the club and you have some dancers at the club, they're going to dress a little provocatively, they're going to dress just how it is. But even with the 8K textures that are going on with most of these models, it is kind of difficult to even look at those models while you're DJing overall too. Yeah,
and then you just be, I'm lagging out.
So it's either I have to find you sexy or I have to DJ. It's kind of a hard. You can't really do that between then.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, like when I DJ, I tend to set like all my settings to low. I cull avatars except for like the 10 or 15 around me. I have my quality of my headset all the way down to 50% on each eye because I don't have the greatest computer. It's not a bad computer, but I don't have the one that can. I don't got a 4090. I don't got the most recent X3D processor or anything like that. So I had to make compromises.
Yeah, but at least you're doing it, and you're providing to the people that you can DJ in here, and you don't have a 4090 and a computer that can fly, and then a drone system and all that other junk too.
Yeah, absolutely. And people are gonna dress what they want to dress like when they go to the club. That's what it is. It's the same in person as it is in VR. You can't expect people to be like, "Oh, you better put on your Sunday best to go to the club." That's not gonna happen. So
had a lot of people come up to me for Dead Man's Party being like, I've never been to a party. How do I dress? And I'm like, I don't know, like relaxed maybe? Like you're ready to party or something? You come in a suit. Like, I mean, sure. As long as if you think you have money to come in a suit. Kind of going further as far as the clubs and stuff like that. Tell us a little bit about some of the clubs that you enjoy performing for and some of the clubs that you actively perform for a lot of the time.
Well, I really enjoy doing stuff at Rift VR, but I met Aztec in person a couple times. I was his first patron on Patreon, so I got a locker and stuff in the world and things like that. I think he does a great job, and he works closely with Ministry and things like that. Always has dancers, always has VJs, always has a really cool immersive experience. Because if you haven't been to Rift, basically what it is you go in, you go through a portal. It looks like a Stargate. It is a Stargate, and then you go outside, and then you're on a meteorite floating in the middle of space with the Rainbow Road like racetrack that goes around. You've got all these portals around you, which are all different screens that the VJ can take advantage of, things like that. So he does a really good job at curating experiences. I really like performing at Kaleido Sky just because the world is super big, open, and vast. Lyoko is always a great place to go perform if you ever get asked to play there. I highly recommend it. And PSHQ has some really cool venues, and as well, I mean, I've performed at Refuge a lot, and all these places, they stick in my mind because they all bring something unique to the table,
I know one of the things, one of the reasons why I was bringing up the different clubs and groups in here. Obviously, there's tons of groups to talk about, and even moving forward into November, we're going to be having a lot of groups come in here and kind of give us the long spiel on how to get into groups, how to let's say you want to DJ and you want to present yourself as a DJ and stuff like that. That I find very interesting. I do love some of these other groups that have really taken their groups above and beyond a lot of the things that VR alone can give you, but like not enough, like we, for example, really love the stuff that Sanctum is doing and how Muzz is kind of incorporating a lot of his workings into his ideals. And I also learned that there is a payment thing through them, so that way the people that do run Sanctum do get a little bit of the money for some of the events that get put on. And actually some of the money is coming from Muzz alone through a Patreon system, which I find is really, really neat of a concept. But like, I know that one of the things that I noticed just recently this year, that you did go to California to ShelterCon.
I did.
And not only does that blow my mind, the fact that such a large community of people can come together, have a good time, and go do it without being tied down to any particular other thing. Like let's just say there's a local convention or something that you go there and then go party somewhere else, or God forbid you go visit your grandma and then like there's a big tour happening at the same weekend, so you don't have to spend all time with grandma, but you're going to enjoy that sort of thing. But kind of tell us a little bit about, because I would assume that you have a little bit more knowledge on how Shelter was kind of built up in here compared to the many years of ShelterCon that kind of being held almost annually.
So I don't know too much about the back end of Shelter, but I did get to play Shelter the weekend before ShelterCon, so that was really cool. So it was kind of like fresh for me, and what I really admire about Shelter is they run just like every other VR club you've ever been at. You know, you get in the group chat, a lot of the same silly stuff happens. You know, some people post memes, some people make jokes, and then you're just there, and they even have like the stream code pinned at the top of the chat, and it's been there for like 2 years. It's just so funny to see because it's just like from outside, if you've never like played Shelter or been in behind or whatever, to see this. Shelter looks like this pie in the sky, like ideal club, you know, huge, massive thing, and it's a very special thing. But at the core, it's still just like every other club in VRChat, which is just really cool to see. It's very community forward. It's very just like they do it right, you know. Tony does a great job, I have to say. And for when I first started DJing, actually, I was kind of like, oh, those snooty Shelter people, blah 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 blah, you know. And now I'm just like, God, I can't even believe I even had thoughts like that to begin with. They're great. I would love to, you know, go to every ShelterCon I can, especially after going, because it feels like when you go to a ShelterCon, it's like super familiar, but also different because everything's in person. It feels like you're at a VRChat thing. It even kind of looks like it if you go to the San Diego one, because the way it's set up is like you got Neofork, the store, and then next door there's 3 B&Bs where most of the Shelter crew stay, and it's typically open to VR people to just go through and hang out and whatever. There's some areas you're not supposed to go into and all that, but it's a lot of fun. Highly recommend the experience. If you get a chance to go to ShelterCon, do it. Do it.
So you were saying that you were performing like a week before ShelterCon?
Yeah. So I got asked to play the Shelter before ShelterCon. So that would have been, I think, early April. And then 2 weeks later, I flew into California, and that's ShelterCon.
Oh, you were
happened.
Performing at the actual
at
Shelter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not at ShelterCon. Well, at ShelterCon, I did some open decks, but that's about it. I wasn't on any of the lineups or anything.
That's why, like when you first started talking about it, it just seemed like everyone was there for a whole like week, like a whole 7 days or something.
Yeah. So the thing they don't tell you is ShelterCon actually starts a week before ShelterCon. So yeah. So if you get there, like, they have a whole, like, if you go to ShelterCon, you'll get invited to a Discord for ShelterCon attendees, right? They've got a whole week worth of programming that happens before the actual events. And that's why it's so much fun, because you can get there on a Tuesday and y'all are doing crazy stuff, and then Saturday happens and the show happens. Sunday, everyone, you know, they go get brunch, mimosas, blah blah blah, whatever, and everyone leaves on Tuesday or Wednesday the next week. It's a whole week. It's a whole experience.
Do you find, and gosh, I would hate to know the answer to this, but I want to know more about it. Do you find that a lot more people want to be a part of Shelter just because it's a popular thing? Or do you find a good majority of them want to connect because they listen to the same type of music that everyone performs or even just vibes out to?
I think people connect with Shelter mostly whenever they go to a Shelter in VR and they hear an artist or they hear music that they really, really like. And then they join the Shelter Discord. And then when you join the Discord, you realize, oh, God, this is just like every other Discord. Because it's just so down to earth. It's insane, you know? And I don't know who's making these rumors to making people think, oh, Shelter's this pretentious thing. It's not. It's not.
Well, it's kind of one of those, it's fun for me because between Shelter and Tube, I promise you, every Saturday night, my event goes, it butts head in head with Shelter and Tube. And obviously with Tube having a lot of publicity, having a lot of promotional stuff, videos and whatever, same thing with Shelter. It just seems like everybody goes there, and not to kick myself in the butt, but like, it's funny because like I'll start playing and I'll have people come into my show and they're just like, oh, I'm queued like 80 person in Shelter. I'm just gonna wait here. And I'm like, oh great, I'm glad that you can come and hang out at my show while you're waiting like 2 hours down the road to go into to do whatever you're doing. But I mean, but it's rocked our community so hard. And I would only kind of speculate from someone that, for me, I mean, I went to Tube for the first time last month, you know, like me not having those opportunities, not saying that I'm supposed to have those opportunities, but like, kind of talking a little bit more about the people that are interested in it, but are a little timid about it. So do you have any advice for anybody that could be timid about, I know you're stating that Shelter is all welcoming and people can come in and have a good time, but I also feel like it could be a little bit intimidating just on the vast size of it all.
Oh yeah, it is intimidating. I mean, it is the largest club in VRChat. There's no way around it. They have a whole clothing line. They've got a whole clothing store that they partner with, They've got events 2 times a year usually where they have these in-person festivals essentially. Like, it is a little intimidating because of just how big it is, and especially for someone who's not used to that. I don't think your average VRChat player will be out there going to a ton of festivals, a ton of clubs, a ton of things like that, And if you're not used to all that, Shelter is definitely intimidating. But if you want to have a good time at Shelter, I recommend you gather up 3 or 4 of your friends, maybe more. Y'all all queue up at the same time and go and experience and have fun. Because what'll happen is you're going to have fun, and in between sets, you're going to start talking to people a little bit. You're going to meet some new people. They're going to become friends with y'all. And then the next thing you know, you're going to be in the Discord. You're going to be going every other week. You're going to be talking about, oh, yeah, let's meet up at ShelterCon. It's going to be great. Because ShelterCon, not only is it a great place for music to meet up, but just in general, a VR meetup. Because it's one of the biggest VR meetups that happens is at ShelterCon, and I'd say TwitchCon. Those are the 2.
I know, kind of going a little bit back and forth with, I know we were recently talking a little bit about the future successes of a lot of the DJs, the DJ clubs, and maybe even trying to get paid while you're playing and performing, and not to completely roll this conversation into the promotion of your show coming up next week that we're going to also kind of talk a little bit about too. But kind of looking forward, and this is kind of what stems a lot of my curiosity in VRCDJLIVE is just that fact. Is not only have I had a couple clubs approach me about Dead Man's Party and how I've been kind of piecing it together. Mind you, that whole process started in like 2018. Like that was such a long time ago. But now you have venues and groups like Shelter, like Baptism, with Baptism even having like a record label, and they want to do all these amazingly great things. Do you think that there might be a breaking point, or do you think that ultimately VRChat is the DJ community in VRChat is going to grow so large that we're going to start making our own business titles to the point where like oh, I am a producer, or oh, I am a bookie, I'm a promoter and stuff like that, and you can actually put it on a business title?
I think so. There's already people doing it. Obviously, we know Shelter. You've got Sanctum, ran by Muzz, that's kind of incentivized and ran in a way that's like a business. You've got places like Lyoko who are doing 4 in-person shows this year, or 3. They did 1 early in January. They had 1 just recently in San Francisco, and they're doing 2 shows in Japan. So like it's evolving at a rapid rate, and you can see the front runners who are really taking it and running with it are gonna turn this into something that a lot of people know. Like, we've had big names come in through Shelter already a few times. We've had big names come in through Sanctum already, and we're having some big names come in, like in the hardcore scene at least, through Half, which has, and then we also got some big names who are coming in Lyoko now. So it's gonna get there. I think there really is so much potential for this, because if you don't live in a city where a lot of music and stuff happens, this is your scene, and that panders to so many people. Do
you think,
well, not your caters, I should say, not pander, caters to so many people.
Do you think at any given time that it's going to become an issue that that a such and such group is doing so much more IRL rather than maybe even VR? Because I know, again, back when we were saying how like exposure is one thing and you're not getting paid, but you don't want to do every gig that's getting thrown to you. But then when you get to the point where we have seen it, I don't want to say any names, but we have seen it where we've had a lot of people that have performed in VR legit just say, I can't do it because there is no financial, there's no revenue involved. There's no way for me to make a living off of this. Does that seem kind of scary? Does it seem like it could become an issue later down the road?
Well, I don't think so because there are two different types of DJs in VR. Those who want to get paid and those who don't. And there's various reasons why you would want to get paid. Say you're trying to make a living off of it, and that's all well and good. I don't think you can make a living DJing in VR alone if that's what you want to do. You know, but I think the people who want to do this for fun, who really just enjoy mixing music and playing music and things like that, they're going to thrive in VR. They're going to be the ones who get the shows. They're going to be the ones who put all that kind of like, I guess, all their like their best foot forward and all this stuff because they just really, really like the act of DJing. And that's what's going to drive people in VR. Now, in the real world, obviously, when money's involved, you're going to do what the money's going to do. You're going to do what the money is going to tell you to do, right? So I think you will have two camps of DJs, and you will have the ones who want to do the art, do a lot more in VR than in person, probably.
Where do you think that the fine line would be as far as because again, you know, coming in here and having a good time is one thing, but then you know, again, not to put my own spin on it, but I think we've all been through it where we've had a couple people that don't really believe in the popularity. They just know how readily available you can be compared to you saying, you know, without sounding like a douche or a jerk, by saying, no, I'm not going to do it, but also kind of holding on to your professionalism a little bit.
Yeah. I think the expectation should be if you're doing something for free and you're not making money off of it, you should be able to step away from it just as easily as you stepped into it. And that's kind of where I draw that line. So if someone asks me to play and I say, yeah, I can pencil you in, but it's going to depend on work. And then a week later, I get my schedule and I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't play. I have to go to work. In the end, work's going to pay me so I can do this.
You would think that, you know, again, we live in a weird timeline, even in regular life where where people genuinely can just quit their jobs, do content, and then make the type of content that they enjoy that other people may enjoy. And then once you start getting those Twitch checks or your YouTube checks or whatever kind of checks you do get, then you're just like, well, wait a minute, I can eat with this. You know, I can kind of live with this. And so trying to focus in a little bit on just that process, I feel like as our community, we do need to take some time to get a little bit more grounded and get a better understanding of just saying, listen, you know, while we're performing and we're having a good time with it, now the weekend warrior DJs are fighting up against other clubs that want to make this brand kind of grow. And I don't want to say that at one point in time we're going to end up splitting a little bit as far as like, all right, who wants to actually dedicate a lot of time into this compared to the weekend warriors. But I would hate for it to just, you know, grilled cheese, you know, to have the nice spread out like that. But I feel like we need to kind of raise awareness to this, even moving forward. While, you know, I mean, just the other day, someone suggested to me that we had a dead man's party in the Bahamas.
Whoa.
And I'm like, with what money? Like, what? We're getting on a cruise?
You want to bankroll it?
Yeah, are we going to was it Atlantica or whatever the heck it's called? Everything's kind of. I mean, in your dreams, dude. Like, if somebody were to make something in VR, it'd probably be a little bit easier. But you know, these are the kind of the things that I feel like all of us. And I think the worst part of it is just finding the right people that have the right mentality towards it and keeping us grounded, because you will have some people that are like, well, if Mayor of Texas can do it, then I can do it with whatever hardware, software I can kind of put together.
Like I want people to know that I don't make money doing this. $0. I've never made a single dollar doing this. And you can do it too, because it's like, as long as you have a controller and a way to stream, that's all you need. There's nothing else really to it.
That's a Mayor of Texas stamp of approval. Should get you a stamp or something. I mean, you got everything else on like everything you sent me with like the card and the stickers. You got plenty of stickers. You're a freaking meme lord. But we have another question coming down on Twitch. Curious to hear about your setup to DJ in VR, like headset, software. What kind of if you use a controller or some CDJs or something? Give us a hot take of how it started and where you're at now.
Okay, so I had a controller in storage because I used to DJ back in the day. So I started with a DJ SX2, which is just an older Pioneer controller running Serato, right? And then I'll just take the analog outs into an audio interface. You can buy one for like $30. That's 2 channels on Amazon. And then you just take that audio into OBS plus whatever you want as your visuals. My first visualizer that I ever used was literally just a GIF of a Texas flag waving.
Perfect.
So you don't need much to do it, right? And that you can buy, yeah. So and then you put all that together in Twitch, and then you just stream. I streamed to Twitch initially, and then I got into VRCD, and after that later on. So my setup now though is obviously a little more complex now, but I'm running a 1000 SRT, which is just a newer version essentially of that SX2, and I use an Index headset with the knuckles and Tundra trackers for the body trackers. And what I'll do is on the VR side, I will set a stream camera up to stream like from behind me to see the crowd, and I'll put that with a visualizer I run in the background. I use a software called Magic Visualizer for my visuals. I can just set it and kind of forget it, and it's audio reactive. I don't spend a lot of time like designing visualizers. They're very basic and things like that. Props to the VJs who do it though. That it's an intense thing to do, and it's really, really talented people who can do visuals on screens. Always gas up your VJ. So from my visuals, I run audio in it to make them audio reactive, and then I bring it into my interface into OBS, layer my visuals on top of it, then I layer my in-game camera on top of that, and then I stream that out into VR.
What's your process on, I know we all kind of have our own little hot takes on it, but what's your process on how you you see and interact in game compared to how free your hands are? Because I know with a lot of people, they'll take the Index knuckles controllers and wear them on their wrists compared to even a headset up on your forehead compared to wearing it. How do you handle that?
Yeah, I put the Index on my forehead, and I do wrist hands as well. But if I'm playing a track that I know I want to interact with people on or something like that, I'll let the track start, put one or both of my knuckles back on, bring the headset down, throw some emotes, whatever, interact with the crowd, then put it back up before I get going on the next transition.
You think there'd be an easier way to tell people in the crowd that like you won't be able to interact with them without actually posting like one of those caution things down saying don't you talk to me but I can't talk to you kind of a thing? I wish that there's an easier easier way to do that.
Yeah, so for people who aren't visually impaired like I am, so if you don't wear glasses, you can wear the headset on your face and look down and do all like through the peephole, but I can't do that. I gotta wear glasses. Okay, so I think people just start understanding after a while. If they go to your sets enough, they're like, oh yeah, no, they're not gonna be able to hear me or whatever, or oh blah blah blah. And I tell the hosts every time I play, it's like, hey, if something's going on, if something's weird, something sounds weird, DM me on Discord, because I will always have my phone on my decks with Discord open in case something's going on. Like too many times I have been DJing and my mic got left open, and I DJ with monitors in my room. So
yeah.
yeah. So you'll hear the music.
And then,
yeah. You'll hear the music before it gets into the world. And so they know what's going to happen unless they mute me.
So here's another fun thing too, and I know we all do it differently, but it's for some reason we don't talk about it because I don't know, I feel like whatever works kind of a thing. But Mr. Audio Guy over here, how do you handle queuing? Do you wear headphones? Do you wear earbuds? What do you got going on there?
So if I'm gonna use headphones, I just have them on the side, and I'll put one cup to the ear and then put them down. I don't usually use headphones when I DJ these days, mostly just because the music I've been playing, I know it really well, so I know exactly what the track sounds like before I drop it in. And I know where I want to go with it, how I want to, manipulate it or whatever. And so a lot of queuing gets taken out of the equation now because of that. But when I do queue, I just have headphones on the side or around my neck, and then I'll just bring one up, one down, and it doesn't stay on my ears.
Again, we're talking with Mayor of Texas, from Texas. Believe it or not, you know, you don't have Rob Roman's voice from Rob Roman, I suppose. But and again, we're live on Twitch at VRCDJLIVE, and of course, anyone that is hanging out, lurking, listening to our conversation, you're more than welcome to ask any kind of question, whether it be DJ related or non-DJ related. You know, apparently everything's kind of on the table. You know, if there's something you direly need to know from Mayor of Texas, feel free to post it in chat, and we will get it answered as quickly as possible. Oh, perfect. Another question. DJ software, what is the preference? And I'll also add a bonus to that. What are your thoughts on other people using other types of software in the game?
So the way I DJ, I kind of purposely adopted this style to where software is not going to be a factor. So I'm okay with using any software. I've used Tractor, I've used Serato, I've used Rekordbox, I've even used Virtual DJ. But I use Serato mostly because that's what I started with, and that's where I am. I think the ideal scenario is a standalone system, either CDJs or even the new AX or something like that, and that's all Rekordbox based. But it's what's the standard, you know? If this is something you want to go out and keep doing in the real world and not just in VR, I would suggest jump on the standard, and that is a standalone system.
What is your thoughts on Pioneer DJ becoming Alpha Theta?
It's an interesting name change for sure. I know it's a brand new company entirely and all that, yada yada. I just think the name Pioneer is just so iconic though. And so, you know, it's a little disheartening because it's like since the 70s, you know, is Pioneer, 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 and now Alpha Theta. Even though it's the same company, the same people, it just
do you think we're going to be complaining enough about that they're going to try to change it back? Or we just have to kind of give in?
I think they would have changed it back and not even made a new name if they could. I think they've already fought that battle at the corporate level because they know, like from a marketing standpoint, especially when you have a name with so much legacy. Like imagine if they started calling BMWs like WNBs tomorrow, right? It's a completely different feel, completely different thing.
Don't say that too loud. They might. I mean, we're at a weird part of our life where like anything on social media. I mean, we even saw what happened with Twitter last night, let alone what's going to happen in the next few days. But
oh man, I think it's I think this is the gonna be another 2-week Minecraft server excursion to another social platform and then come back. You know, this has happened already.
Yeah, honestly, like I don't know where my Hive account went. Like I was thinking about Hive the other day, and I guess there is another one that somebody's a part of, and I have no idea what the name is or how to keep track of it. But holy moly!
Yeah. A lot of people are on Blue Sky right now, and they're gonna probably be there for a week or two, and then they're gonna come back to Twitter. I don't know how. Well, I don't really know what this new block feature is gonna look like on Twitter yet. Obviously, they said, you know, oh, they can still see your post, but they can't comment, blah, 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 or whatever. I don't know how that's actually going to play out, though, socially. Obviously, we'll see, you know. But if it plays out in a way that's not so dramatic, people are going to come back. If it plays out in a way that is starting to be like, oh, this might be, and then I think that's when they'll go and make the change back to what it was.
I think the way I'm seeing it is like, let's just say you block someone on social media and you go to Starbucks and then they walk past and for some reason they know your encyclopedia knowledge of everything that you've ever said, even though you blocked them. Like I would assume in that scenario, then sure. But I think once they kind of see if X decides to talk a little bit more about the process, maybe, but you may be right. You know, it could be just a 2-week thing and we'll move on. Or, you know, hell, what if a new game comes out and they're just like, oh, jingle keys, you know, we're going to go play a game now and just don't worry about what's going on here.
Yeah. And, you know, I don't want to say it was all for political reasons, but it probably was considering the time we're at, how close we are to the election and all this stuff, you know. We'll see again, like I said. And I think people are going to come back to Twitter. It's what it is.
Actually, honestly, I think people are going to be more focused in on holidays because obviously, like, you know, it's not spooky enough here in Florida to be Halloween yet. But like, I still have my pumpkin candle and it's lit, and it smells pretty good in here. But when Christmas happens, man.
Oh
Christmas.
yeah. Oh yeah. Christmas is always a fun time. I really like this time of year, especially for VR, because people always get into like creating new avatars, outfits and costumes and things like that for like Halloween, Christmas and all that. It's really cool. It's just another whole facet of creativity that this platform offers.
Do you have any do you have any events happening for Halloween for you? For like
Halloween?
DJing or even going to in VR?
In VR, I'm not sure yet. I'm not DJing any Halloween events in VR. I may be going to some places in Houston to a couple events. I have had a few people ask me because I go and a lot of times I'll go take photos at these events to kind of help out with the staff and give them photos or whatever. And just kind of like, and that's kind of an interesting parallel with VR. And if you wanted to get like booked more and things like that, if you are a DJ and you really want to get booked more, become involved with the staff of the venue you're trying to book at. Just say like, hey, I got VRC lens, let me go take some photos or whatever, and then give it to them and they'll post it on their Discord or just post it yourself in their photo channel, right? And it's a good way to get like recognized and start talking to these people and get into the DJ booth.
Speaking about Halloween and costume things, we got a really big thing happening next week for you. The Nonstop Costume Rave next Friday. Yeah, tell us. It's an IRL event. It's happening in Texas. What can you drop that you're allowed to drop outside of the mysterious venue that you're going to be having for it?
Well, it's at a brand new venue that they just recently acquired. I think like a month or two ago, not that long ago. It's a warehouse in the east downtown of Houston. We call that Edo in Houston. And so you go to Edo and it's going to be costume rave, costume theme. So, pull up in whatever costume you want. And it's going to be a lot of fun because this is specifically a techno and hard techno themed, which is right up my alley. And I remember getting a DM on Instagram from this venue. It's like, hey, are you available on the 25th? And do you play hard techno? And I was just like, oh my God, that is the perfect thing to wake up to.
Right?
I even tweeted about it a little bit. You can go back and look at it.
So you got this gig because you knew somebody?
Well, so this is kind of what happened was a couple months, I guess it was like, okay, so it was in October, I think in like June or July, I decided to go, I'm going to go and explore the Houston scene because I haven't been out there in a while and there hadn't been much of a scene prior. And so I go to this little open decks thing that's happening and I played for like 15 minutes, but the problem was the power kept going in and out, so I couldn't actually get a full set in. But what they heard, they really liked, and it's like, hey, you got to come to our events, blah, blah, blah. And so like I went to these events and this was a group called Amped, and they aren't affiliated with East End, which East End is the ones putting on the show that I'm playing. But there's a group called Amped. I went over there, hung out with them, met a bunch of people, and then from there I found some of the after party spots, hung out with people at the after party spots, talked to some audio guys, things like that, and then I just made a bunch of connections like you do in VR. You go to one venue, hop to the next one, hop to the next one, hop to the next one. And then I saw East End, which is this venue that I've been trying to want to play at. They're like, hey, we got a new venue. Who should we play? Who should we have on? And then one night I saw that. I was just like, you know what? I want to play there. And so I made a comment and I sent it to like 6 different groups that I had done stuff for either in Houston or in VR or in California or wherever. And then I ended up getting like 30 or 40 different people posting on that post to have me play there. And so then they're like, okay, the people want you got to play. And I'm like, great. And so that's how I got in.
So that's just kind of it, right? I feel like a lot of people, I feel like this is now a really good opportunity for you to kind of tell everybody that's in VR what you really need to do as far as IRL stuff. Because if we're going to have more IRL stuff from the VR people, we can't have someone that's timid and just being like, oh, I'm a shy little fox thing in VR. And they're going to be like, what the hell is VR? So,
exactly.
so the way that you handled it in your area, do you just go up to the bar? You go up to the audio guy? You try to find the promoter? What do you do?
what you have to do is my leg. What you have to do is figure out something that you can bring to the table and you can relate on a level more than just, oh yeah, I like that. So for me, what I did is I have a Polaroid camera. So what I would do is I would go from venue to venue, take Polaroids of people enjoying their time, take Polaroids of the DJ, write the little date or whatever, put my sticker on the back of it, and hand them the photo, And now they've got a memento of the night of something, that they did, and they had a lot of fun there. You strike up a conversation that way. People start to recognize you because, oh, it's the dude with the Polaroid, right? And then people come up to you and they're like, hey, take a picture, or whatever. And then from there, you get a little bit of a reputation. Then people will approach you and talk to you, and you feel you're more in the community because you put something into the community,
Do you find, and again, I don't know too much about Texas. I want to know about Texas, and one of my biggest conversations with that Dunkin' Donuts employee when I was there for 7 hours was, for someone that has never been to Texas, where would be the best places to visit for your first time? And I'm going to double up with that question, being like, if you're in the Houston area and you think that the Houston music scene is so abundant, do you find yourself kind of going out to other big cities around your area if they're kind of nearby?
Okay. So if you're coming to Texas specifically to do some kind of music experience thing, I would recommend actually starting in Austin because they already have a pretty developed scene there. And they have all up and down 6th Street are like the bars and things like that. It's basically 6th Street is like Bourbon Street, but in Texas. You can kind of think of it that way. But there's a lot of bars and music venues along 6th Street, along 5th Street, and then there's some more stuff in the more industrial areas also, just depending on what kind of genre you want to get to. But they have a very abundant scene there. Now, if you're coming for like bass music or something like that, Houston and Dallas are massive in bass music right now. So if that's what you're looking for, those are the cities I would say. And Houston right now is interesting because it is a budding music scene. It's not quite established, but there are like 10 new groups that are all kind of coming up at the same time. Some more house based, some more techno based, some more hip hop based, some more, bass music based. So it really just depends on what you're looking for. But if you want something, the safe bet is start at Austin, go to 6th Street, enjoy your time there, and then look at the other venues in the other cities.
So you're probably still, and again, this kind of blows my mind a little bit just because there are a couple of places on the East Coast that, while the music scene used to be a really big thing and the club scene and stuff like that, it's been kind of dwindling because things that are happening in Hollywood, obviously the things that are kind of happening right now with all of our favorite musicians, I'll say, and I'm not going to bring up any other names besides that. But the idea of playing celebrity, you work 9 to 5 Monday through Friday, and then you go out with your girls, you go out with your guys on a Saturday night to the club. But every time you do that, there's always something in the news stating how the club is, not a safe place or whatever. Do you find that, like, while you're saying that the music scene is booming and it's budding in the Texas area and all these major cities, do you find that it's still kind of growing despite having all of the negative things that you may hear as far as like shooting, stabbing, stuff you hear on the news?
Absolutely. And Houston especially, there are a lot of new groups, and these are people, and these people aren't old either. Like, they are like 21, 22-year-old people putting these groups together, finding videographers, finding venues, pooling money together to rent the venue, finding these speakers in people's garages and, hodgepodging systems together. Very DIY, but, they draw crowds of 300, 400, 500 people. So I think we are in a really good spot in Houston right now as far as growth. Nothing is super established yet, but the growth is there.
Do you find it any difference between the seasons? Because I would assume that Texas seasons are kind of like Florida seasons when it comes to like, it's not too snowy, it's not too cold, but even in the summertime too?
Oh yeah, and Houston especially, October is like prime warehouse club season because it's just the weather out right now last night it hit 60 degrees for the first time
Hey.
since probably the beginning of the year. Is like, oh my god, it feels amazing. And if you go, to a club or a warehouse, there's no AC, right? In the middle of Texas summers. And the thing that people don't know is Texas summers at daytime it gets like to 100, 110. At night, it only gets down to like 92, and there's still a bunch of humidity. So it's still, you are sweating.
People will still be outside too, like even in the heat, and just sweaty and just sweaty bodies.
Yeah. Everyone is like tank tops and shorts. You can't really wear much else.
It's spicy, but I mean, like, you're gonna be going there for the spice anyway. So
yeah, exactly. But in the fits really, really come out in October, and so that's when people really like to go out and enjoy themselves on like the patios and things like that. Late September, October, November, December, even, because I think the coldest it gets in Houston in general every year on average is like 28 is our bare minimum on average.
Okay.
Obviously, we've had some years where it's gotten to single digits, Texas Power Grid, all that stuff. But like, I
remember
most of the time.
I remember that happening a little while ago, right? Where they lost power for a little while. Oh my gosh.
We weren't super affected where I was because I have a generator, so I was prepared. Okay.
A lot of people around the country are like, "Oh, those poor Texans, they got the heat and they have no blankets." Like, well, no, duh. If you don't have a blanket and you don't be comfortable and it's freezing, then sure, absolutely. It's like the same thing. My cousin, she moved to Georgia for some schooling, and we had a discussion where Atlanta, Georgia had snow. And their windshield frosted over. So her first intent was to boil water and throw it on the shield. but luckily for her, nothing. I mean, that was great radio.
Got lucky.
Yeah, I recorded that conversation, so it was good for radio. But like, she didn't get cracks or nothing. But like, I'm just like, some people just don't know. So, holy moly.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no. So, and the other thing is like, we might have had those winters, but like, I always laugh whenever it's in New York and it gets like 98 degrees, and they're like, "Oh, I'm dying." And I'm just like, you're funny.
Meanwhile, there's like no air circulation in downtown New York City at all.
And then it's just like, we don't even have AC in this building. It's like, how do you not have AC in a building? That's a foreign concept to me.
Honestly. Kind of getting back to your gig that you got coming up next Friday.
Sure.
And it's going to be a Halloween event. You're going to be doing a bunch of costumes. I know earlier we were kind of talking about how some of the people that are performing, they don't do VR. So like the fact that, and I did see the lineup, it was funny because all the other people have like their actual faces, and then you have this fox looking dude just in the corner, like, what the hell is this all about? Talk to me. Do you guys chat? Have you been chatting up before the event? Or have you kind of known what they do or what they perform? Or
So I've seen all the other DJs perform in Houston before, and they all do techno, or they'll do hip hop based stuff or things like that. And so I haven't talked to them too much. One of them is very heavily involved in that one group I was talking about, Amped, but they all play like, some of the they all play the techno venues, and they all play like the after party venues too. Excuse me. And so, they like I said, I haven't talked to them too much, but I know they're all great DJs and they're all good people, and it's going to be a great show,
You know what?
I'm not sure who's playing when and who's doing what yet, but all I know is I'm gonna go there, play a lot of really fun fast techno, and then it's gonna be great.
I know one of the things we were talking about earlier, even yesterday, because I even asked right away if some of these people knew about the stuff you do in virtual reality or stream in virtual reality, and you said no. And so I'm kind of interested to see how you're going to approach them with that, and how you get people interested in being in VR, and if you had gotten people interested in VR.
Well, yeah, I've actually gotten one person who says they're pretty interested in coming in and playing, and they actually came to one of my shows in VR. It was the same night you came to that techno show. One of the one of the people that I met in Houston told them about the VR stuff, and they seemed really interested. They're actually in the process of getting all their stuff set up. It does take a little bit, it's a little bit of a learning curve. But what I think the weirdest thing, I guess, for people who will come in from IRL who have no experience in VR is just the VR culture, how everyone's running around in an avatar and things like that.
Yeah, a little
And
different. You're
that
talking to like
it's
a
a
little
little different.
creator or someone really big, or
Yeah, and then a lot of them probably never have interacted with anyone in the furry community or things like that, so they're not gonna exactly know how to do all that and things like that. But that's kind of what makes our place special, We're this community that's like super open to anyone and everyone, and if you vibe with us, you vibe with us.
you want to tell a lot of our a lot of the people watching the stream right now where they can, or even a replay. It's not just the stream. People can watch it on YouTube.
Yeah.
Where can people buy tickets or find information about the show if they're living in the greater Houston area?
Yeah, sure thing. Just hit up any of my social links at the top of the social media page. You'll see either a link tree or a link to the actual ticket for the event. And so if you hit my link tree, you'll see it at the very top. It's big. You can't miss it. It'll say Nonstop 005, and it'll send you to an app called Posh. And Posh is kind of what we use as our like underground, not necessarily underground, but like our local scene ticketer in Houston. A lot of people use Posh, whereas like in New York and Chicago, they might use RA, Resident Advisor.
You find a lot of people within the VRChat community that live where you are?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Do you find a lot of people in the VRChat community, not just in the DJ community, but VRChat? Do you find that they live a lot in the area that you're in right now? Do you guys have like meetups or something?
There are a few people who do live in Houston. I'm sure there's a lot more that I don't know about. I've met up with obviously a couple of people in the Houston area. I don't know if they want me to say who is who in Houston, so I won't say any names in particular. But there are definitely a lot of people in Houston and Dallas, and a couple people known in Austin. Most of the VR scene, though, I've found is typically West Coast, LA, and San Diego, at least as far as the music scene goes.
So do you find yourself going a lot of the time towards California and the West Coast most of the time?
Yeah, I had never taken a trip to California until last year, and I've gone like 4 or 5 times now.
I also don't want to bring up the fact that you have a big old, I would assume that's not a skateboard, that's a longboard behind you.
Yeah. Well, it's here. It's technically a skateboard model, but yeah, it's got a lot of really cool like stickers and stuff from different clubs.
Tell us a little bit about what kind of stickers you got going on there.
Okay, so these are all logos from various, mostly VR DJs, some not, and venues and little jokes and stuff that's just kind of come along over the last couple of years. Like I even got, VRCD in here, very, very important to the cause. And I've got like Bert and Schwank, Mir No Tilda, like RNG, so many different people, Lyoko. It's funny, I put actually the old Lyoko logo and they asked me to change it to the new one. I was like, oh yeah, sure, I can do that.
Easy. Well, you have like 50,000 stickers on your thing. Yeah.
And then I have 2 different versions of Buc-ee's on here. So
but that's cool. Like this is something that you do normally. You just go out and you do the longboard, or tell us a little bit about that.
Well, yeah, sure. So I got into longboarding in college, and I would use it initially as just a way to get around campus because I didn't want to carry a bike or anything like that with me. I didn't want to have to get a bike lock and worry about my bike getting stolen. I could take the longboard in with me to class and then sit with it and then take it out with, at the end of the day. And it got me around campus plenty fast. Obviously not as fast as a bike, but plenty fast. And so I kept doing it for a little bit after I got out of college. I was able to do like a tire claw and pop shove it. That was about all I could do trick wise. There's not a lot of hills in Houston, so there's not much downhilling in Houston. It's all long cross trek kind of longboarding. And what I did it for a couple years after I finished college, but then work picked up and I just couldn't really longboard as much as I wanted to anymore. I could pick it up again now. I still got it, the trucks and everything. I was on my board the other day. I still know pretty much everything I need to know to get around.
Do you find that a lot of people kind of like call you a nerd, or they call you like a beach dweller or something? I've had a friend back in school who did longboard, and that was kind of her whole personality, was like she was a chick with a longboard, and I'm like, okay, cool. But now that you're going to California, I would assume that there's opportunities out there too.
I could like, if I go to California again, I could bring the longboard. But I'll tell you what I did with ShelterCon is I didn't bring my longboard, but what I ended up doing was this skateboard, I got custom grip tape, printed, and I recreated this skateboard in game, but in real life, and I got everyone at ShelterCon to put stickers on the bottom.
Oh,
of
that's
it, like
cool.
this.
Yeah.
I can send you a picture of it later on if you want to see it.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
But it's even got like light up wheels and everything. So when you take this board in the dark, the red wheels, they turn blue. They glow blue.
Oh man. See, now you gotta do like crazy looking kick flips and stuff, and in the dark, just so you can show off and put some sort of weird like Tony Hawk's soundtrack behind it or something.
Yeah, you start playing ska in the
background.
I
mean, why not, right? I enjoy it. That's kind of the reason the two tell me. But so we're just kind of wrapping up on the other side of VRC DJ Live here with Mayor of Texas, and of course you're more than welcome to peep him out on Twitch as well as on Instagram, Mayor_of_Texas. As we're winding down here, just some again, you're more than welcome to ask all the questions in chat. But as we're winding down, I kind of want to know where you think that you're headed professionally in 2025. What do we got coming down the pipeline for Mayor of Texas as far as the new year is concerned?
Well, I guess it really depends on how well the Houston scene comes up and if they want my kind of brand of music in it. So my goal is to play more shows in Houston, be more active in the city, because there's this funny thing. I've played more outside of my city than I have in my own city, and that's kind of when I realized it's like, oh, I gotta do something about that, right? I think I played in Houston like at least under the Mayor of Texas moniker like twice. And then like I played in California like 4 times. I played in Chicago. I played in Minneapolis. I played in New York, right? All these places, but only in Texas twice. Yeah.
I mean, now's the perfect time, but also too, like, you do have to show off the fact that you're doing IRL things instead of just VR things, which I think a lot of people get mixed up with, because it's just like I showcase that you DJ in VR, and they're just like, oh, I only watch it on the YouTubes, and you're like, oh well, that's not enough.
Yeah, and I think part of it is like I just want to kind of perform on a stage again, because in high school I did musicals and things like that, and it's just really, really fun, being on stage and just being able to perform and give something to the crowd that they can vibe with and all that.
What about in virtual reality? Do you have any ideas of where you're going to be doing in VR as well?
Yeah, not anything in particular yet. Usually people ask me about sets and festivals and VR festivals and things like that only a couple weeks before they happen. Whereas in person, they'll be planning it a month and a half out. Some festivals, obviously, they do a lot more planning and things like that. And I know I have a couple VR ones coming up. I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about them yet or not, but so I'll just say in January or not. I don't know when exactly, but next year we definitely got some fun stuff coming out.
As far as I know you were sending me a lot of different things on SoundCloud, and again, I saw one song on Spotify, which again is kind of a big deal, because I feel like a lot of people, when they talk about DJs, and they're like, well, you're not a real DJ unless you go to Spotify, and they're like, I mean, you could be a producer, not a DJ. You could be a DJ, not a producer. Yeah. So now that you got all of that kind of a momentum going, is there any future in making new music, or maybe even like producing?
Absolutely. I have a lot of tracks I've been working on and that are done that just aren't released yet. I'm finding a way how I want to package those and release them in a way that makes sense to me. And so you can definitely expect an album, maybe or two, coming out either late this year or next year for sure. and I'll leave the genre a mystery, but um, there's some stuff you will expect based on what you've already heard from me, and then some stuff you probably won't expect, because it's just a lot of this stuff, these new ideas and like feels and vibes and things that I've been working on that are a lot of fun to explore.
See, that's the stuff that I really like to hear, just because, like, let's just say you do create something a little abstract, a little something outside of your realm. You can use virtual reality as just kind of a vehicle to have a really nice promotional party and have people there, and even set the vibe on a lot of things. And gosh, I don't even remember who the artist was, but like he was kind of a little bit more of a hardcore artist, someone that had a lot of energy. And then he came out with this album where it was just like either lo-fi or sleep music or something, and you're just like, you know, what drugs did you take? What were you? How were you drunk or something? How did that work out?
It's kind of that's kind of funny you bring that up, because like I'm known a lot for playing hardcore and fast techno and things like that, and my song on SoundCloud or Spotify is a house song, you know.
It's a whole different vibe, yeah.
It's a whole different vibe.
You don't just wake up with hardcore. I mean, some people do. I mean, I used to wake up in college to the sounds of Slayer, but that's just because I couldn't wake up. But like, you know, anything like that could, you know, definitely be something cool to see on the other side, because obviously you're expecting something, but then getting something completely different is so eye-opening on that.
Absolutely.
Kind of the question that I ask a lot of the time, and I'm really glad that I didn't share these questions with you beforehand, because I really love asking these types of questions towards the end of the interviews and stuff. But who are 3 VRChat DJs that you enjoy watching?
Oh man. Well, the first one I'm gonna say is Kitsune Mixes, aka Tadashi Eto, because like they do such a good job, and I feel like a lot of times I'm competing with them in a way, and it's just so much fun. And we've gone back to back a lot and things like that, and so they play a lot of the same genres I play, but also super into mid tempo and things along those lines. Makes a lot of their own visuals and such. A second one I would say that I really enjoy watching is I like watching 780 Racer perform. I know I've talked about them a little bit earlier, but he's starting to do a lot more in the Minneapolis area too, as far as DJing goes, and he likes to mix in a lot of different like top 40 and pop things, but in a way to where it's super enjoyable, and it's not just like, I'm listening to the radio again. It's like, oh, this is a really cool dubstep / DMB double remix of, you know, whatever. This new Billie Eilish song or whatever. And then what is a third DJ that I really enjoy to go see play? In PSHQ Una, they do some really, really interesting techno vibes a lot of times. Always something different on the table. Not always techno, but it's like this really, a lot of times it's really moody, kind of like really, really vibey sounds. Highly recommend checking them out if you ever go to PSHQ and see them play.
Do you find that you have enough time to come in and see some new people, or do you think that it's just kind of difficult for most people to come in and be able to see some of these newer talents?
I recently, because of work, I haven't been in VR much. Only like for things like this, or a couple of sets during, like, I've taken a couple of sets this month, and those are the only time I've been on VR this month. But say I'm like in a regular work kind of era, not during my peak season, I think it's pretty easy to listen to newer DJs, just because a lot of times I get put on lineups with them. So I'm just like, oh, I haven't heard that name before. I'm going to go a little early, or I'm going to stay later and check them out as well.
It always seems like, and I know we keep going back and forth with this, and again, one of the other fun things to discuss while we're on this program is finding the time for that, and not just gatekeeping our time. I know a lot of people believe that, like, me being some weird meme figure, which we'll talk about. Obviously that's coming too, because we were talking about that. But it just seems like, like I'm not approachable, or I'm not around, or some people think that I'm just some guy on the internet, and that's fine. But then when they come out I hope that they have a good time, of course. But I would also think that there's some other things to think about, being like, oh, he doesn't have enough time to see my set or something, which in this case, half of the time is we're tired or, what do you want us to do? You want us to just sit up in the corner? Do you want us to be in full body? Do you want me to be sleeping in the corner? Am I tired? I'll come to your show, but I'm tired, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So finding the time and debunking all of that, even though it has been 2 years since the big old explosion of this happening, is still kind of trying to figure all of that out, is being able to pinpoint all these cool new talents and stuff. Something that I feel like a lot of people have a misunderstanding about, and I would love your opinion about it, is I feel like a lot of DJs nowadays in VR, I don't know about IRL, but in VR, are finding it, they're getting a little stressed out about having the perfect performance. Talk to me a little bit about that as we're kind of wrapping up here.
Okay. So the way I get around that is I've kind of worked in a way and learned how to DJ in a way where I don't plan my sets. And what I typically do is I just have a folder full of tracks that all have a kind of vibe that I'm looking for. And then I'll choose maybe one song or two to start with, and then I'll just go from there. And when you play it that way, you're not thinking about what's coming ahead 3 or 4 tracks down the line, because you don't know what's coming ahead. All you're thinking about is, what is the music here? What does it sound like right now? What does it want me to go to next, I guess, in a way. So in a way, you listen to the music and it'll tell you what it wants, and you do the thing that it wants, and then it's cool. I don't know if that makes sense or not. I can elaborate on it, maybe.
I know. Well, I mean, for example, you make it sound so easy. I guess that's kind of where I'm saying it. Like, I think a lot of people, when they do get up there, like, let's just say they're performing for the very first time, because we've had those people. They're performing in VRChat for the very first time, and they either spent a whole week putting together a whole hour of music, or by the end of it, they mess up a little bit. And after they mess up a little bit, they're just kind of beating their head up against the wall, saying, "Oh, I should have done this. I should have done that." Do you think it should just be a matter? Because again, for us, it's a matter of feeling out the music. I think for both of us that do deal with audio a lot and understanding our catalogs, what do you think are the tools needed to succeed for someone who's just starting, who is kind of nervous about maybe even performing in front of a crowd for the first time, maybe not understanding their music, kind of stuff like that?
So I think the biggest thing that helped me, because I used to be very frustrated every time I made a single mistake in a set like that. Like, if I messed up in the set, it would make the whole set feel like trash to me. Like, I don't care. It sounds terrible right here. I hate my set, but I think the biggest thing, that I came to realize and understand about these VR sets is just how low stakes they are. Even at Shelter, right? I was just at Shelter a couple weeks ago, and the last DJ of the night, Bert, my good friend, he had connection issues at the start of his set, and everyone there is still supporting and all that too. They didn't care that he had to replay his intro like 3 or 4 times because whatever, and he crashed twice. The rest of the set went off really, really well, and it was a lot of fun. So I think putting things in perspective, realizing just how low stakes this is, because there is no risk. This only possible option is some kind of reward in the end. People don't go out and attack you because you messed up a transition or because you disconnected or things like that. So putting all that in perspective will calm your nerves, and you'll be like, oh yeah, you know what? This is just a lot of fun right now. So let's have fun with it. Enjoy it while it's here. Even if you're just fade transitioning from track to track, not doing anything crazy fancy, it's still a lot of fun, and you're creating an environment in the end that people are enjoying.
I think it's kind of nice that you're saying it like that too, because most of the time, it can be nerve-wracking to be in front of people and performing something that you hit 2 songs and then you just kind of go off and do whatever. But it's nice to reflect on the community that we have, where we're not. I mean, you got to be a real dick to just be like boo and you throw stuff, you just throw the tomato emote or whatever, and stuff like that, which I'm sure some people do. But at the same time, we're all in it together. It's whatever you're performing is what you're performing. Speaking of which, I know we were bringing up the fact of the memes and stuff, And fun enough, you sent me a bunch of stickers in the mail. I think a lot of people on Twitter has seen that, and that part was really, really funny. But out of all of the stickers that you've created, out of all of the different I guess icons and stuff like that, all the different things that you got going on, have you really considered your avatar or your branding to be sort of memeish? Is that something that you've been wanting to do, or
it's kind of evolved into that, I think, especially like some of my other avatars, they're just over the top, like Texas meme, like, massive 10-gallon hat that goes like 100 times the size of the world or whatever. But like, it's kind of become a little bit of a meme. But the funny thing is, people in Texas really, really like Texas. And if you brand anything with a Texas like silhouette of the state or a Texas flag, it is about like 20 or 30% more likely to get sold in Texas.
Oh my gosh. So like the Texas branding is the America of America kind of a okay.
So there's like for example, trucks like a Ram 1500 or whatever, they have a thing in the US called the Bighorn Edition. In Texas, it's called the Texas Edition.
Oh my gosh.
It's the same exact truck, but it's called the Texas Edition.
Does it cost any extra because it's in Texas? No, it's not. Okay, cool.
It's just branded as the Texas Edition, so people buy it more often.
Oh my gosh.
That's how it is. Like, you see US flags put up at like car dealerships everywhere. In Texas, it's a US flag and the Texas flag. Like every dealership.
So are you hoping to have like a whole fleet of like people that come to your performances with big old hats and Texas up?
That would be incredible. Like,
I'm just saying, 2025, we got to get some like Mayor of Texas minis or minis of Texas or something, and they're just like little Neko arcs or something running around with big hats or something.
Yeah. Maybe anybody want me to commission them to make an avatar? Let me know. We might make something happen.
I'm not saying that it's gonna be the next Uganda Knuckles, but I would want to wear it. You know that.
Imagine.
Everybody on skateboards running around, duddy, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So as we're winding down here on VRC DJ Live, of course, we're here with Mayor of Texas. Mayor of Texas, where can we find you on the internet?
Well, I post most of the time on Twitter. I am building up my Instagram a lot right now, so I would encourage you to follow me on Instagram. You follow me on Twitter. There should be either you can see both my ats there at the bottom of the screen. You can go there, and then you can follow the link tree, and then you will find my music, my mixes, my socials, my upcoming shows, things along those lines. For VR shows, you can find me on VRCTL. You will see, I think you can search by DJ. I don't remember. I haven't been on there in a while. But you can see all of my upcoming shows when they get posted by the venues on VRCTL in VR.
Are we going to see a blue sky at some point in time?
Yeah. Well, I have one. You can follow me there as well.
Great. I know we're talking about it. So
it's there.
Yeah.
It is there. So if you're on Blue Sky, you can just search me up. Same deal, and I'm on there as well.
How frequent are we going to be seeing some of your performances up on Twitch? Or are you going to just you're doing that a lot more too, or is it just going to be a VRCDN thing?
I simul stream all my sets that I play in VR to Twitch, even the pop-ups, even the small little bits. Depending on the venue will determine if I have my in-game camera on or off, because obviously, Twitch TOS. So you can, every time I stream, if you see me purple on Discord, that's probably because I'm playing a set in VR.
So most of the time, we're just coming in to see you perform in virtual reality. Then, besides next week, of course, we got to make sure that people buy tickets. And if you're not going to Texas, please go to Houston. Go to the show, enjoy the show, and that's kind of it for our episode today. So, Mayor of Texas, thanks for stopping by and sitting down with us for a little bit of time to kind of chew the fat. I guess that's what we would call it here. I'm not entirely sure how we end these programs anymore, but of course, Mayor of Texas, thank you so much for coming by, and I'm looking forward to some more performances from you, dude.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, and I'd love to come back anytime you want. Just give me a holler.
Sweet. And obviously, we're going to have more experiences with more DJs as we continue on with our program. And for those of you that are at home, and if you're lurking right now, please make sure you follow Mayor Texas all over the place on social medias, as well as check out all of the highlights and the replay happening on YouTube at VRCDJLIVE, and of course here as well. So, guys, thank you for coming by to the show. For next week, next Thursday, we're going to be sitting down with Mr. Creepypasta. If you haven't heard of that gentleman, he is an author of many, many creepy things, as well as he's kind of the forefront of HorrorCon VR happening next week, and he's kind of the forefront of the Rave that's happening. We're going to be talking a lot about the Rave as well as HorrorCon VR and VR. And so we got a lot going on with that. Make sure you come back with that. We'll post the times up on Twitter or X, or I guess I got to make
whatever you want to call it.
I got to make a sky blue now. So that's going to be it. But guys, have yourself a wonderful time, and thank you all for coming by for the show. We'll see you next time. Say bye, Mayor of Texas.